Hey, viva la revolution! What's up, it's a culture detective here investigating your favorite movies, and I finally watched One Battle After Another. This is a new movie by Paul Thomas Anderson, pretty much a legend, pretty much a big name at this point. If you don't know who Paul Thomas Anderson is, I'm sorry, but you're kind of living under a rock because ever since the 1990s, he's been making one great film after another. Of course, we have his breakout film Boogie Nights, which is actually his second film. Also, the first film I saw from him. I really enjoyed his early work. We have Boogie Nights, we have Magnolia, and then afterwards we have Punch Drunk Love, which I unfortunately haven't seen. The big guns, however, start here with There Will Be Blood, one of the most critically acclaimed films ever, has Oscars, at least nominations, I believe, but my personal favorite from Paul Thomas Anderson is The Master. I love The Master. I think it is one of the most beautiful, elegant, poignant expressions of power dynamic and also the occult. And then afterwards, Paul Thomas Anderson continues with, I believe, Inherent Vice and Phantom Thread. We have Licorice Pizza, and then now we're here. And I went to the Vista Theater yesterday. There are four theaters in the entire world, four movie theaters in the entire world that plays VistaVision. Now, you might be a little bit confused. What is VistaVision? Well, VistaVision is actually film projection, which usually goes like this, turn sideways, which goes like this. And when it goes sideways, it means there's more surface area on the film, which means the film appears bigger, and it usually has the native aspect ratio of 1.5 to 1, aka 3 to 2. If you're confused, please go check out my video essay on aspect ratios. But before I went into Vista Theater, they gave us this card, one format after another, and they are basically encouraging us to watch it on VistaVision and then IMAX 70mm, regular IMAX, Dolby 70mm, 40x. You get the drill. It's really desperately trying to get people to pay to watch this film. I might rewatch it on IMAX 70mm, but that's probably, I'm not that rich. I mean, seriously, come on guys, come on. Anyways, pretty funny. Now, this is a very interesting film because if you didn't know this, Paul Thomas Anderson is not known for making very commercial, mainstream, poppy, entertaining films. His films, especially in the 2000s, like There Will Be Blood and also, The Master, his films are usually more artsy and patience testing, more introspective, and is slightly more of an acquired taste than your usual general public. But, Paul Thomas Anderson in numerous interviews had clarified that he is not an art house filmmaker. He's not an auteur. As much as people nowadays love to call him, he's an auteur. He's an auteur filmmaker. But he has a far cry from an auteur. His early films, Boogie Nights, are all imitations of Robert Altman's filmography, and then of course in the 2000s he really found his own voice, which is the part that I love the most. And then his recent films, especially Licorice Pizza, are all vibey movies that are very slow, kind of slice of life, and they're full of intricacies. They're very flavorful, they're very tasteful and artsy, but they're very chill. And for him to suddenly go from chill, slow movie to anxiety attack, action-packed, mind-blowing, blockbuster is really crazy. But I'm gonna quote PTA himself. When he went into film school, he mentioned that in the first day of class, the professor was like, if you want to make Terminator 2, get out. And his thought was like, what if that guy over there wants to make Terminator 2? So in his mind, PTA isn't boxing himself in a specific genre, in a specific style. He changes style to style from movie to movie, which is probably what makes him such an interesting filmmaker. Anyways, One Battle After Another is his first film set in the modern day since Punch Drunk Love, which is back in 2002, I believe, or 03, I forgot. And it is a big deal. It is about modern day America. It's about American fascism. It is about white supremacists and the American military working together to sort of exterminate what they call terrorists. But these terrorists are actually revolutionaries who are trying to make a change, even though the changes might be violent, but they are doing it for the greater good. They're trying to release detained people in detention centers, which is very much an ongoing issue right now as we speak. Even I, myself, as a non American, feels the threat. I feel the threat of this political change that America is having right now. You know, we're slowly encroaching towards fascist capitalist hell. Let's not kid ourselves. America right now is a dumpster fire. So, very topical for PTA to release this movie. On top of that, it stars big names like Leonardo DiCaprio, Benicio del Toro. Now, the first thing I want to mention is even though it is like a modern day blockbuster epic action movie, there's still a lot of PTA isms that really make this feel elevated than anything else that comes alongside it. The editing, the cinematography, I love the lingering, intense close-ups. I saw a lot of those in Magnolia. They kind of come back here. These close-ups allow the audience to create to conjure sympathy, a sweet sympathy for these characters. They give a spotlight to the actors' performances. And then you have these quirky wide shots, which stages the environment in a very quirky, self-reflecting manner. The editing, sharp, as always. Every single PTA film is edited in such a tasteful way. Of course, you have the wide shots cutting to the dolly shot. I think this is present in a lot of American films. You know, look at Spielberg, even Scorsese does that a lot. And then you have very interesting edits where, you know, it ramps up its speed and slowly becomes a montage. So it slowly transitions from a series of inserts and close-ups, and then it builds up pacing and turns into a montage, and your mind just kind of glues all those shots together. You know, the friggin' Kuleshov's experiment up in here. And all this is guided by the amazing music by Jonny Greenwood, of course, guitarist of my favorite band of all times, Radiohead, but also a fantastic composer. He composed music for all the previous PTA films. He also did Spencer and The Power of the Dog, which are both amazing scores. So, great technicalities, also great storytelling as well. Act 1 is easily the snappiest, fastest PTA I've ever seen. Ever. And then my favorite sequence of the film actually takes place when the police and the military try to raid a Latino neighborhood, specifically a store. And Benicio del Toro, his character Sensei, he's trying to get everyone out, and then Leonardo DiCaprio's character is trying to run away. Very anxiety-inducing, very close. It's basically a cat and mouse chase. And the car chase near the end of the film, and the use of the telephoto lens to make the bumpy roads look like they're going up and down and up and down. That scene is amazing. Again, it's a little attention to detail and the attention to making every scene as artsy and tasteful while still bringing the entertainment and the meaning, more importantly, on top of the shots is what makes PTA such a fantastic filmmaker. So obviously, this movie is fantastic, but I do not think it's perfect. Unfortunately, even though it really deserves the hype, something's holding me back from completely enjoying this film. I think maybe it's because of the scale of the film. I feel like Act 2, like the raid on the neighborhood and the protests, feels more large in scale than Act 3 in a traditional action epic. I would love to see a more epic Act 3. I also think that I kind of miss the poetic prose that PTA usually has in his other films. I think that PTA is more enchanting for me, more alluring for me. But I think these are my two complaints. Everything else is pretty much perfect, and The performances are great. Leo DeCap is hilarious. Sean Penn is amazing as this slimy, gross, white supremacist lieutenant or colonel called Steve Lockjaw, which is fucked. What a fucking name. PTA and his names, man. Oh my god. Like Barry Egan, Reynolds Woodcock, Daniel Plainview. He has crazy names, and I love that. I'll say this. Despite the film being hopeful and being a revolutionary film, there are still suspicious ties between this film and Israel in real life. Leonardo DiCaprio apparently building a hotel in Israel, Johnny Greenwood's wife, and his silence on the ongoing situation, and even Elena Heim, who also has Israeli ties. But looking beyond that, I do really appreciate the film being hopeful at the end. And a lot of people compare this film with Eddington because Eddington is also a film about the current socio-political climate of America and how much it fucking rots. But Eddington is just pure hatred and cynicism, while One Battle is more hopeful for the next generation. And I do really appreciate the message, even though I do think Ari Aster hammers home a point as well. But either way, this is a fantastic film. Phenomenal front to back explosions and fireworks. That's a weird noise. But yeah, giving this movie a strong 9 out of 10. So, have you watched One Battle After Another? Comments below, let me know, subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching. I don't know, maybe it's going to be a 10 out of 10 after a rewatch, but for now, a strong 9.